Episode 1, The Journey Begins. June 4, 1960. The sun shines from a cloudless sky over Finland. Whitsuneve dawned warm and bright in Helsinki. 18-year-old Nils Gustafsson had woken early and was already packing his camping gear in his bedroom. He'd been planning this trip to Lake Bodom for weeks. What made him especially eager was that his girlfriend, Mila Björklund, a beautiful girl of only 15, would be coming along. "When are you actually leaving?" Nils's mother called from the kitchen. "Seppo has already called 3 times. Nils rolled his eyes. Seppo Boisman, his best friend, was always overeager and obsessively punctual. "Soon. Tell him to take a breath once in a while." Half an hour later, Nils stood outside Seppo's house. The 18-year-old had borrowed his father's Jawa motorcycle for the trip and was clearly proud of it. "There you are, finally," Seppo greeted him, handing Nils a spare helmet. "The girls are waiting for us at Mila's place." The motorcycle roared through Helsinki's streets toward Tulo, where Mila lived. The summer wind rushed past them, and Nils felt free. Nothing could ruin this weekend. "You're late," Mila stated, hands on her hips, when the boys finally arrived. Beside her stood Anyamaki, a shyer 15-year-old who had agreed to be Seppo's companion for the trip. "Blame Nils," Seppo laughed, waving a hand toward his friend. "The princess needed his beauty sleep. Do you guys even want to go, or should we just stand here making jokes?" Nils asked, climbing off the motorcycle. Mila smiled and stepped closer to Nils, pressing a light kiss to his cheek. "Let's not argue now. We have the whole weekend ahead of us." They packed their gear and set off, Seppo and Nils on the motorcycle, the girls by bus. They'd agreed to meet at the Espoo bus station, from where they'd continue together to Lake Bodom. The afternoon sun glimmered low in the sky when the foursome finally arrived at the shore of Lake Bodom. They'd had to walk the last couple of kilometers, carrying all their equipment. "Over here," Seppo pointed toward a beautiful peninsula jutting into the lake. "That's the perfect spot for the tent." While the boys set up the tent, the girls gathered firewood for a campfire. The sun still warmed them, but it would surely be cool in the evening. "Did you hear? There's a kiosk over there," Anya called out, spotting a sign in the direction of a nearby swimming beach. "Should we get something to drink?" The group decided to visit the kiosk together. On the road leading to the Oita swimming beach stood a small red kiosk, in front of which sat a grim-looking man. Something burned in his stern eyes that made Mila instinctively grab Nils's arm. "What are you kids planning?" the man asked, eyeing them suspiciously as they approached the kiosk. "We thought we'd buy something to drink," Seppo answered cheerfully. "We're camping by the lake." The man's eyes narrowed. "Camping? Where exactly?" "Over there on the peninsula," Nils pointed toward the lake. "That's private property," the man growled, though he didn't rise from his chair. "You can't camp there." "Sure we can," Seppo protested. "We didn't see any no trespassing signs." The man set down his glass, which seemed to contain something stronger than soda, and stood slowly. He was tall and stocky, perhaps 50 years old. "I'm Valdemar Gillstrom. That peninsula is my land, and I say who camps there and who doesn't." The young people looked at each other uncertainly. Seppo took a step forward. "We won't bother anyone. We're just staying one night and leaving tomorrow." Gillstrom snorted and sized up the youngsters with his gaze. "If I hear any noise or wild behavior, I'll come chase you off. And watch out for the lake. It's deep and dangerous." There was something threatening in his voice that made Anya shiver. Mila squeezed Nils's hand tighter. "Thanks for the warning," Nils said diplomatically. "We'll be careful." They bought drinks from the kiosk while Gillstrom stared at them the entire time. Walking back to the tent, the girls glanced nervously over their shoulders. "What a horrible man," Mila whispered. "Almost like he wanted us to drown." "Don't worry about it," Nils comforted her. "He probably just wants to keep the place peaceful." The evening progressed, and the young people lit their campfire. Seppo had brought along a bottle of Koskenkorva vodka, which the boys sampled, while the girls contented themselves with the sweet liqueur bottle they'd brought. Laughter and chatter echoed across the darkening lake surface. Have you heard that strange lights have been seen on this lake? Seppo asked as the sun began to set behind the horizon. It was nearly midnight, but the summer sky was still a twilight blue. Don't start with ghost stories now, Mila huffed. I don't want to wake up from nightmares. It's true, Seppo continued in a low voice. Sometimes on clear nights, when there's a full moon, lights dance above the water. Stop it. Anya laughed and threw a pine cone at Seppo. Nils listened with amusement to his friend's banter. But then he froze. A sound had carried from the forest, behind the tent. Like a branch breaking under someone's step. Quiet, he whispered. Did you hear that? Everyone fell silent to listen. In the summer night's dusk, the forest held only birdsong and the quiet rustle of wind in the trees. I didn't hear anything, Seppo said after a moment. What scared you? Nils shook his head. I heard something. Footsteps. Mila glanced back toward the forest. It's probably that kiosk owner. He threatened to come chase us away. Or some animal, Anya suggested. Maybe a moose or deer. Nils stood and peered toward the forest, but nothing was visible. The sun had set, it was 10 past midnight, and soon it would be completely dark. Only the campfire's light created dancing shadows between the trees. The group decided to go into the tent. They carefully extinguished the fire and crawled into the cramped 4-person tent. Mila and Nils settled next to each other, as did Seppo and Anya. Did you hear that? Mila asked suddenly. Branches crackling again. Now they all heard it. Clear footsteps approaching the tent slowly, deliberately. Snap, snap, snap. Who's there? Seppo shouted, but no one answered. The steps stopped right beside the tent. The young people held their breath. Then a shadow moved outside the tent fabric, as if someone was staring at them through the canvas. This isn't funny, Nils said aloud, trying to sound braver than he felt. If that's you, kiosk owner, we'll leave in the morning. The response was only silence. Then the footsteps began to move away from the tent until they disappeared completely. Should we go check? Seppo asked uncertainly. Absolutely not, Anya answered firmly. I'm not going anywhere. But Nils felt restless. He slowly opened the tent zipper and peered out. In the dim summer night, no one was visible. The sun had set, it was past 12:15, and the early night's darkness covered the lake shore. Further out on the lake, the water shimmered quietly, and something, perhaps a light, reflected from its surface. But when Nils focused his gaze there, the reflection was gone. There's no one there, he told the others. Maybe it was just our imagination. But for some reason, none of them believed that. Something lurked in the forest, waiting for darkness to descend. And it would return soon.